Stop breathing for half a second. Good. That silence you just felt. That's the sound of the room recalibrating around you. Because somewhere between who you were and who you are now, something went wrong for them. You didn't just improve. You didn't just level up. You mutated. And now grown adults, people who used to look past you like furniture, are lowering their voices when your name comes up. Not out of respect, out of fear, out of confusion, out of that ugly realization that whatever rules they memorized no longer apply to you. Here's the part that fries their nervous systems. There was no ceremony, no announcement, no permission slip. One day you were background noise, and the next day you were an anomaly they can't categorize without sweating. You didn't arrive loud, you arrived different. Calm where you should have been broken, smiling where you should have been begging, focused where you should have been bitter. That's what makes them whisper. Loud threats can be studied. Quiet transformations terrify professionals. They're trying to explain you with logic, and that's the joke. You weren't built by logic. You were carved by pressure, sharpened by neglect, trained by disappointment. Every time life tried to humiliate you, it accidentally upgraded you. Every time they laughed, something in your nervous system learned how to stay cold under fire. You didn't get stronger by winning. You got stronger by not dying when you were supposed to. That's the paradox they choke on. You look lighter, but you're darker. You look peaceful, but you're lethal. You look kind, but there's a switch in you now, a silent, surgical switch that flips without warning. Angel posture, demon timing, saintly patience, psychopath execution. They don't know which version they're dealing with, and that uncertainty keeps them up at night. You walk into rooms like you're not auditioning anymore. No scanning faces, no begging for approval, no over-explaining your presence. And suddenly, the same people who once ignored you are tracking your movements like weather patterns. They're not asking what you're doing. They're asking how long until it hits us. Because upgrades like yours don't announce themselves. They detonate later. You learned unpredictability isn't chaos, it's leverage. You learned consistency is for people who want to be understood. You chose ambiguity. You chose depth. You chose to let pain teach you patterns, no textbook covers. Now your silence reads as strategy. Your restraint reads as threat. Your calm reads as countdown. And let's talk about the whispers. Oh, the whispers. Did you notice how different they are? When did that happen? I don't remember approving this. As if evolution needs their permission. As if power waits for a committee vote. They whisper because saying it out loud would force them to admit a truth that humiliates them. You outgrew the version of the world they're still clinging to. They wanted you predictable, trainable, grateful. Instead, you became self-authored. You don't mirror their emotions anymore. You don't rush to reassure them. You don't flinch when the room tests you. That's not confidence. That's post-trauma clarity. That's someone who's already survived the worst-case scenario and realized the monster under the bed was the training program. You carry light like a disguise now. Smile sharp, kind eyes, controlled breath. But underneath, precision, memory, hunger. Not the sloppy kind, the disciplined kind. The kind that waits. The kind that knows timing is everything. They sense it. Animals always do. That's why their laughter sounds forced around you. That's why compliments feel delayed. That's why authority figures suddenly over-explain themselves when you're present. You didn't just upgrade skills. You upgraded thresholds. What used to hurt you now barely registers. What used to break you now bores you. And what used to scare you, you wear it like a tailored suit. Pain didn't make you cruel. It made you accurate. It taught you where to cut without bleeding all over the place. This is the part they'll never admit. Your evolution exposes their stagnation. Your presence is a mirror they didn't consent to look into. When you speak, it's not loud, but it lands. When you move, it's not rushed, but it's final. You don't need to dominate the room. The room adjusts itself around you like it's obeying a law it doesn't understand. So let them whisper. Let them laugh nervously. Let them ask who allowed this to happen. The truth is simple and unbearable. No one stopped it. No one could. You were built in the dark, optimized by pressure, and released without warning, not as a hero, not as a villain, as something worse for them, an exception. And exceptions don't ask, they arrive. Don't get it twisted, though. This wasn't luck. This wasn't some cosmic glitch that accidentally favored you. This was earned in the most brutal currency there is, time under pressure. Years where nobody checked on you. Seasons where your wins were invisible and your losses were public. Nights where you had to talk yourself out of disappearing while the world slept comfortably, assuming you were fine. That's where the upgrade happened, quietly, illegally, without witnesses. That's why they can't trace the moment it began. There's no highlight reel, no dramatic before and after. Just a slow, terrifying realization that the version of you they understood no longer exists. They keep replaying old memories, trying to reconcile them with what's standing in front of them now, and their brains short-circuit. Same face, different gravity, same voice, different consequence. You see, most people grow horizontally, more contacts, more noise, more validation. You grew vertically, downward first, into doubt, into isolation, into the kind of silence that strips away fantasy and leaves only truth. Then upward, cleaner, colder, more exact. You don't waste motion anymore. You don't overshare. You don't explain your intentions because you learned intentions leak power. You let outcomes speak now. And outcomes don't stutter. That's why adults whisper. Adults understand risk. They've lived long enough to recognize when something doesn't follow precedent. They've seen confidence. They've seen talent. They've seen ego. What they haven't seen often is someone who stopped needing external permission to exist at full volume. Someone who doesn't rebel loudly, but withdraws consent from the entire game. You don't react the way you're supposed to anymore. Insults slide off you like rain. Praise doesn't inflate you. Conflict doesn't rush your pulse. And that terrifies people who rely on emotional leverage to feel important. Because if they can't move you, they can't control the tempo. And if they can't control the tempo, they start realizing they're not the conductor. They're part of the background noise. You became fluent in contradiction, warm presence, cold memory, soft delivery, hard boundaries. You can sit quietly in a corner and still dominate the room because dominance isn't volume. It's inevitability. People feel it in their bodies before they can articulate it. That's why conversations change when you enter. That's why jokes die mid-air. That's why people suddenly remember appointments they don't actually have. And here's the part they really don't like. You didn't become this by copying anyone. There's no template for you, no guru, no school, no lineage they can point to and say, "Ah, that explains it." You're not a product of tradition. You're a response to failure. Systems failed you. People failed you. Expectations failed you. So you built something private and functional in the wreckage. They ask, who trained you? Because they can't accept the answer. Suffering did, and you paid attention. Pain taught you pacing. Betrayal taught you pattern recognition. Loneliness taught you self-regulation, and humiliation, that taught you humility without weakness. You stopped confusing kindness with compliance. You stopped confusing patience with passivity. Now when you wait, it's intentional. When you speak, it's calibrated. When you move, it's already too late to stop you. You don't announce your next step because you learned that anticipation is a weapon best kept sheathed until the moment of impact. You let people underestimate you because you understand something most never will. Being underestimated is cover. It gives you space. It gives you time. It gives you angles they never defend. That's why the whispers sound confused. I don't know what it is, but something's different. Yeah. What's different is you're no longer asking the room who you're allowed to be. You already decided, and the decision hardened. It calcified. It became policy. You're not chasing power. You're embodying stability, and unstable people fear nothing more than someone who can't be rattled. You don't need to dominate conversations. You don't need to win arguments. You don't need to prove intelligence. You let people reveal themselves while you take notes in silence. That's not arrogance. That's post-chaos clarity. So let them whisper louder. Let them speculate. Let them try to reverse engineer you like a forbidden upgrade they weren't supposed to see. The truth will keep slipping through their fingers because the version of you they're searching for doesn't exist anymore. You didn't upgrade to impress. You upgraded to survive. And survival, when done long enough with intention, turns into something far more dangerous than ambition. It turns into presence. Stay with that feeling right there. The weight behind your eyes. The quiet pressure in your chest. That's not anxiety. That's containment. That's power learning how not to spill. Because here's what really happened while they were busy living on autopilot. You stopped needing chaos to feel alive. You stopped mistaking intensity for meaning. You learned how to sit inside yourself without flinching, and that alone separated you from 90% of the room. Most people can't stand themselves in silence. You made silence your workshop. That's why your presence feels off. Not loud, not aggressive, just undeniable. Like a storm that hasn't decided where to land yet. You don't posture, you don't peacock, you don't flex prematurely. You let time do the threatening for you. And time is loyal to people like you. They sense it when you pause before responding. That fraction of a second where you don't rush to be liked, where you don't rush to smooth the moment, where you don't rush at all. That pause screams experience. It tells them you've seen outcomes they're still theorizing about. It tells them you've already paid prices they're still negotiating. You used to be reactive, honest, exposed. You wore your emotions on your face like an open ledger. That version of you was easy to map, easy to bait, easy to dismiss. But pain taught you compression. It taught you how to fold intensity inward until it becomes density. Now when you feel, it doesn't leak, it loads. That's the upgrade they're whispering about. Not talent, not looks, not status, containment. You don't argue to win anymore. You let people finish talking so they can hear themselves lose. You don't chase clarity from people who profit from confusion. You don't seek validation from systems that collapse under scrutiny. You learned how to remove yourself emotionally while remaining physically present, and that breaks people who rely on drama to feel relevant. They don't know where to place you because you don't fit their hierarchies. You're respectful but unbowed, calm but not passive, friendly but not accessible. You don't play the dominance games they memorized because you realized something devastating. The game only works if you care. and you stopped caring in the way that drains you. Now you care strategically, you care selectively, you care with boundaries sharp enough to draw blood without ever raising your voice. You don't threaten, you don't warn, you don't need to. Your consistency does the damage. Your refusal to spiral does the damage. Your ability to walk away without theatrics does the damage. That's why they keep asking, when did this happen? As if evolution needs a timestamp. As if rebirth sends a calendar invite. They want a moment to blame, a workshop, a mentor, a phase. Anything other than the truth. You are forced to grow where comfort couldn't follow. You didn't become this by adding layers. You became this by burning them off. Illusions, attachments, expectations that weren't yours. You lost pieces of yourself that were never designed to survive pressure, and what remained? Something functional, something calm, something lethal in its restraint. You don't rush success because you're no longer afraid of being unseen. You've been invisible before. You survived it. You learned that obscurity is not death, it's incubation. And now that you're emerging, you're not frantic. You're measured. You're deliberate. You know exactly how much of yourself to reveal and when. That terrifies people who built their identity on being the loudest voice in the room. Because you don't need the spotlight to cast a shadow. You just stand there, fully integrated, and the room adjusts. Conversations soften, postures shift. People become more careful with their words, not because you demanded respect, but because your nervous system commands it. You're proof of a truth they don't like teaching. Evolution doesn't ask permission, and it doesn't care about seniority. It rewards adaptation. It rewards awareness. It rewards the ones who can endure long enough to learn from the damage instead of becoming it. So yeah, let them whisper. Let them laugh nervously. Let them ask who allowed this upgrade. The answer will keep haunting them because it's not external. It's not institutional. It's not something they can gatekeep. You allowed it. Pain enforced it. Time refined it. And now you're walking around as a contradiction they can't resolve. Too calm to provoke. Too sharp to ignore. Too controlled to manipulate. You're not here to dominate the world. You're here to outlast it. And the longer you do, the quieter the room gets. Until all that's left is the sound of people realizing they should have paid attention sooner. And here's the part that never makes it into their whispers. The part they don't even let themselves think all the way through. You didn't just learn how to survive pressure. You learned how to enjoy the calm after it. You learned how to operate without adrenaline, without chaos, without needing someone else's panic to validate your importance. That's when the real shift happened. That's when you crossed from reactive to sovereign. Most people need friction to feel alive. You don't. You've already been scraped raw. You've already bled internally where no one clapped for you. So now when things are quiet, you don't get bored, you get dangerous. Because calm for you isn't emptiness, it's bandwidth, it's processing power, it's space to think 5 moves ahead while everyone else is still emotionally stuck on the last sentence that hurt their feelings. That's why they misread you. They assume silence means hesitation. They assume stillness means uncertainty. They assume restraint means weakness. Those assumptions are how they expose themselves. Because you're not silent due to lack. You're silent because you're choosing, you're filtering, you're letting people reveal their limits while you remain undefined. You used to want to be understood. Remember that? You wanted people to get you, to see your intentions, to appreciate your effort. Pain cured you of that fantasy. Pain taught you something far more effective. Being unreadable is safer than being misunderstood. Now you let people project whatever they need onto you. Let them guess. Let them speculate. Every wrong assumption buys you leverage. You don't correct people anymore. You let them operate on outdated information. That's not deception. That's efficiency. You learn that clarity is expensive and should only be offered to those who've earned access. Everyone else gets the version of you that keeps them comfortable or uneasy or confused, depending on what serves you best in that moment. And notice how your reactions changed. You don't flinch at disrespect. You log it. You don't explode at betrayal. You observe the pattern. You don't chase apologies. You watch behavior. You learned the difference between noise and signal. Most people are still addicted to noise. You're fluent in signal. That's why authority feels different around you now. Not hostile, not dominant, careful. People with titles sense when someone no longer fears consequences the way they're supposed to. Not because you're reckless, but because you're not attached. You can walk away. You can rebuild. You've done it before. That freedom makes you immune to the subtle threats that keep others obedient. You don't posture against systems. You simply stop feeding them your energy. And systems starve when they're ignored by people who can function independently. You became self-referencing, internally validated. You stopped outsourcing your worth to reactions, numbers, applause, or approval. And the moment you did that, you became unpredictable in the most terrifying way. You can't be steered. They whisper because they feel it. They feel that you're no longer available for manipulation. That guilt slides off you. That shame doesn't stick. That praise doesn't intoxicate you. That fear doesn't paralyze you. You're operating on a different frequency now. One tuned to outcomes, not emotions. You're not rushing the future because you're not running from the past. You processed it. You integrated it. You metabolized it into awareness. That's why your confidence doesn't spike. It settles. It's not loud. It's not brittle. It doesn't need defending. It just exists, immovable, like a law of physics people bump into without realizing it until it's too late. And let's be honest, part of you enjoys watching them try to catch up. Not out of cruelty, out of clarity. You see the gears turning behind their eyes when they realize the old dynamics don't work anymore. When sarcasm fails, when intimidation fails, when charm fails, when hierarchy fails. You don't smile wider, you don't react, you just let the moment teach them. Because you learned something crucial. Power doesn't announce itself. It reveals itself in constraints, in what you refuse to do, in what you no longer tolerate, in how little you need to prove, in how easily you can leave. So yeah, ask the question again. Who let you upgrade this hard? No one. There was no gate, no permission, no approval. You went through the only door that works, the one marked pressure, loss, isolation, repetition, self-honesty. And you didn't just walk through it once. You lived there long enough to remodel. Now you're back in the world, looking normal enough to pass, but calibrated for realities most people never touch. And they feel it. Every whisper, every pause, every sideways glance is confirmation. You didn't become someone they admire. You became someone they factor in. And once that happens, the room never sounds the same again.